What should I believe? And why do I believe what I believe? What do I think I know? And why do I think I know it? How do I know it? This is really the question that the Kalama Sutta, one of the Pali suttas, one of the best known ones in the West, really, for reasons which will become apparent. These are the kind of questions which it's asking. As most of the suttas do, it sets the scene. The Kalamas are a group from a small town. They seem to be one of the less state-based Indian groups. At this time in India, there's a tremendous amount of different forms of social organisation. And the truth is we know virtually nothing for sure about this, but lots of intelligent hypothesising goes on, which is quite interesting in the context of what the sutta is actually about. But got small city-states, the first large territorial, almost empires developing, and small agricultural communities. Anyway, the Kalamas seem to be more sociable, maybe a little bit more democratic. Maybe they govern by a council of elders. But they've been having visitors. They've been having wandering ascetics. They've been having teachers, Brahmins, what we might today call monks, turning up and telling them things, telling them what they should think. And they're baffled because they all completely contradict each other. Which are we to believe? Which are we to ignore? How do we know? So, they've heard about this great teacher, wise teacher. We'll go and see him. So they come en masse to see Mr. Gautama, the Buddha. And as always, this is our received story. Do we believe it's literal truth? Do we believe it's a consolidation, a making up story about the original Buddha? Does that matter? So many questions. And one of the questions is, which questions do we need an answer to? And why would we need those answers? And so if the Kalamans have been baffled by all these different guys turning up and lecturing them, why have they gone to see the Buddha? Why is he going to be any different? This Gautama from Shakya. Which raises the question, why are we here? And the question is always, well, why are we here? What do we think? What do we think we're after? What are we hoping for? That's true then. That's true now. What do we think this is all about anyway? So they ask Gautama, the Buddha. He replies to them. Well, actually, now let's read to you their explanation first. It's just lovely to hear the language of these Pali Suttas. Lord, there are some Brahmins and contemplatives who come to Kesaputta. They expound and glorify their own doctrines, but as for the doctrines of others, they deprecate them, revile them, they show contempt for them and disparage them. And then other Brahmins and contemplatives come to Kesaputta. They expound and glorify their own doctrines, but as for the doctrines of others, they deprecate them, revile them, show contempt for them and disparage them. They leave us absolutely uncertain and in doubt. Which of these venerable Brahmins and contemplatives are speaking the truth, and which ones are lying? Might be interesting to think for a moment about what kinds of truth these Brahmins and contemplatives might be offering, and why. Are they looking for an audience, looking for followers? Do they really feel that they have the truth? They have something important to say that they must share, other people must listen to? Are they just looking for cash? But what kind of terms might they be talking in? Well, as will become kind of clear, they might be talking in terms of how we make the world function properly. What do we need to do to guarantee that the world, our society, but also the physical world around us actually works properly? And contentious, seems to have been a bone of contention at the time, the idea of caste in India. Is it important to know which caste you're part of? Is it important that we have stratification with roles and behaviours towards each other? Is that an important part of society? Or is it important that there are certain rituals that we carry out? And, if we don't carry out the fire ritual, then society, the world, will collapse. Are there rituals of purity which we need to worry about? Or is it a question of magic? They're offering magic, how you can get ahead. We can make the crops grow, we can make the animals fertile, we can make the weather fine, or just, practice this and you'll get ahead. You'll be able to curse your neighbour, or, whatever. Magic, essentially. And that might be for the benefit of the community, and it might be, for me, for the benefit of me. These are all possibilities. Tell me what to do. Tell me what not to do to get on like this. The truth is out there, and I've got it, and I'm going to tell you about it. Now, what's interesting is that what Gautama is going to say really kind of undercuts all of this to start with. Of course you are uncertain, Kalamas. Of course you're in doubt. When there are reasons for doubt, uncertainty is born. Okay, so what are our possible criteria of truth here? Our truth testing. And this is a pretty amazing list, actually. So in this case, Kalamas, don't go by reports, by legends, by traditions, by scripture, by logical conjecture, by inference, by analogies, by agreement through pondering views, by probability, or by the thought, this contemplative is our teacher. That's actually a pretty amazing list, because if we're not going to believe any of that, what are the grounds for truth? Let's just think about those again. Reports, kind of hearsay, stuff we find on the internet. By legends, stuff people have old traditions. People have always believed this. Surely that's just the way it is. By scripture, written down in a book. Hey, like the Pali Suttas. Do we just ignore them? By logical conjecture. Logic, seems fair, doesn't it? But say, hang on. By inference, logic again. And this follows, because that. By analogies, this is like that, so you can see that. No, ignore that. By agreement through pondering views. That's debate, isn't it? Dialogue. By probability, this is likely, but okay. Or by the thought that this contemplative is our teacher, this non-contemplative is our teacher. So what are we going to do? The truth is out there. How do I judge? How do I tell? That's the Kāmāla's basic question. Gautama says, when you know for yourselves that these qualities are unskillful, these qualities are blameworthy, these qualities are criticised by the wise, these qualities, when adopted and carried out, lead to harm and suffering, then you should abandon them. And this is where the interesting bit comes in, because, so I get to judge for myself. Well, whatever I know, whatever I judge. Because actually, we've been through all these perfectly reasonable ways of truth testing. What's left? Well, I got this kind of, I've always had this kind of feeling that it was like that. Well, I don't think that's what Gautama's saying at all. But what else? What else have we got? How do I know? It comes right back at me, the question, well, how do I know this? So where are we going to go with this? He's going to take it directly in the direction of what I do. What we might call ethics. It's interesting that he doesn't say, watch your breath. It's interesting he doesn't say, no, you must sit and meditate. It's just going to ask you to do some testing. What do you think, Kalamas? When greed arises in a person, does it arise for welfare or harm? For harm, Lord. And this greedy person overcome by greed, his mind possessed by greed, kills living beings, takes what is not given, goes after another person's wife, tells lies and induces others to do likewise. All of which is for long-term harm and suffering. Yes, Lord. What do you think, Kalamas? Does delusion... Let me go on there. What do you think, Kalamas? Are these things good or bad? Bad, Venerable Sir. Blameable or not blameable? Blameable, Venerable Sir. Censured or praised by the wise? Censured, Venerable Sir. Undertaken and observed, do these things lead to harm and ill or not? How does it strike you? Undertaken and observed, these things lead to harm and ill. Thus it strikes us here. What's the difference here? The difference here is that truth is not out there and I'm here. And it's actually not either. I just think, I feel this way. It's not in here either. Truth is between us. Truth is social. If I act in a greedy way, these things follow as consequence. If I don't act in a greedy way, the consequences are very different. Truth is collective. Truth is social, useful. Truth includes me. I'm not outside looking in. But of course, there's also a huge problem here, because in a sense, all Gautama's saying is, well, don't do bad stuff and do good stuff. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Great. Don't be greedy. Fantastic. And that's, but how and why? It's a bit like, the kind of arguments, the kind of little mantras around premarital sex or drugs. Just say no, just say no to greed. Oh, easy, sorted. Or maybe not. Am I aware of when I'm being greedy? Do I know how to respond when I feel that other people are being greedy? This is just knocking it back. But it's knocking it back towards actually process. It's knocking it back towards finding out, experiment, not just coming to a view of my own, not just accepting what I'm told, but a process of truth that I'm part of, a process of truth that I'm engaged in. Now, as our practice, there's two ways we can direct our practice from here. We can say, I see. Try and think good thoughts. Yes. Try and do good deeds. Yes. Try not to think bad thoughts. Yes. Try not to do bad deeds. And this is kind of active directly active, involved way. But actually our approach is a little different from that. Sitting. Sitting that is both not doing, but also a kind of doing. It's doing, not doing. Sitting with awareness. What we're trying to cultivate is the awareness of our actual thoughts, our actual feelings. Am I aware of that thought of greed? Am I aware of that thought of anger? How does that play? How does that show up in this body? What does that make me think? Thoughts, bodily sensations, feelings, emotions, and just being with and being aware of and seeing how the patterns form and the patterns connect, rather than starting from a view which is external and out there for me to see and adopt or not. And there's this wonderful other crazy sutta. Which is the Aggi Vacchagotta Sutta. Vacchagotta. Now, in the Kalama Sutta, we've had a group come and see Gautama. In this one, it's just another wandering ascetic turns up where the Buddha is and starts to interrogate him. Pays the usual formalities, sits down by his side. How is it, Master Gautama? Does Master Gautama hold the view the cosmos is eternal, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view the cosmos is not eternal, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view the cosmos is finite, only this is true, anything else is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view the soul and body are the same, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view the soul is one thing and the body another, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view after death a Tathagata, Buddha, does not exist, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. Then does Master Gautama hold the view after death a Tathagata both exists and does not exist, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? No. How is it, Master Gautama, when Master Gautama is asked if he holds the view the cosmos is eternal, after death the Tathagata neither exists nor does not exist, only this is true, anything otherwise is worthless? He just says no. In each case. Seeing what drawback then is Master Gautama entirely dissociated from each of these 10 positions? Gautama answers, Vaccha, the position that the cosmos is eternal is a thicket of views, a wilderness of views, a contortion of views, a writhing of views, a fetter of views. It is accompanied by suffering, distress, despair, and fever, and it does not lead to disenchantment, dispassion, cessation, to calm, to direct knowledge, full awakening, unbinding. Then he goes through each of the other possible versions of this. Does Master Gautama have any position at all? Or view, we might say? a position vacca is something that a Tathagata has done away with. What a Tathagata sees is this: such is form, such its origination, such its disappearance, such is feeling, such is consciousness, such is origination, such its disappearance. Because of this, I say a Tathagata, with the fading away, the ending, the cessation, renunciation, and relinquishment of all construings, all excogitations, all I-making and mind-making and obsessions with conceit, is, through lack of clinging and sustenance, released. But Master Gautama, the monk whose mind is thus released, where does he reappear? Reappear, vacca, doesn't apply. This is why I've been reading it. Doesn't apply. In that case, Master Gautama, he does not reappear. So we're talking about basically after death. Does the Buddha reappear? Does he not reappear? Does not reappear, vacca, doesn't apply. Does he then both does and doesn't reappear? Doesn't apply. So then he neither appears nor reappears? Doesn't apply. This is the basic, quadrilemma that you get in Greek logic and in Indian logic too. It's like we go through every possible option. But Gautama just says, no, doesn't apply. This is the wrong thing. It's like asking, is this cheese happy? Doesn't apply. It's just nonsense. How is it, Master Gautama, when you are asked if the monk reappears, does not reappear, both does and doesn't reappear, neither does not reappear, he says, doesn't apply in each case? At this point, Master Gautama, I am befuddled. At this point, confused. The modicum of clarity coming to me from your earlier conversation is now obscured. Of course you're befuddled, vacca. Of course you're confused. Deep, vacca, is this phenomenon, hard to see, hard to realise, tranquil, refined, beyond the scope of conjecture, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. For those with other views, other practices, other satisfactions, other aims, other teachers, it is difficult to know. That being the case, I will now put some questions to you. Answer as you see fit. What do you think, vacca, if a fire were burning in front of you, would you know that this fire is burning in front of me? Yes, I would. And suppose someone were to ask you, vacca, this fire is burning in front of you, dependent on what is it burning? Thus asked, how would you reply? I would reply, this fire burning in front of me is burning dependent on grass and timber as its sustenance. So, if the fire burning in front of you were to go out, would you know that this fire is burning in front of me has gone out? Yes. And suppose someone were to ask you, this fire has gone out in front of you, in which direction from here has it gone? East, west, north, south? Thus asked, how would you reply? That doesn't apply, Master Gautama. Any fire burning depends on the sustenance of grass and timber, being unnourished from having consumed that sustenance and not being offered any other, is classified simply as out. Doesn't apply. Now, the wonderful thing here is that normally when this sutra is discussed, what happens? Whoever's discussing it rushes off to try and explain to us, to try and clarify how it can be that after death the Buddha doesn't exist, or neither does nor doesn't exist. But actually, what is Gautama saying here? He's saying, this is a confusion, this is a thicket of views. You can turn this around in your head all you like. Your answer doesn't apply. We don't need to dive into metaphysics and get lost. And this is exactly what he's been saying is going on in the people who come and talk to the Kalamas. Views, still more views. infinite, finite, eternal, not eternal. This is the same, this is not the same. Views, useless. Why? Because these are external. So what we're actually left with is process, is this investigation, as our own founder teacher Dogen tells us. Investigate this matter thoroughly, as he always says. We don't need dumb questions. We don't need to waste our time on dumb questions, because there's actually the process of coming to truth in ourselves. And this is what our practice is. It's this process of coming towards a truth which incorporates us, which is not separate from us, of which we are simply a part, a self in the world, a self as relationship. And so he's rooting this absolutely in how we are with each other and how we are with ourselves in what we might as well call ethics. So we're not talking about meditation, we're not talking about breath control, we're not talking about notions, we're not talking about knowing the truth of the cosmos. We're talking basic stuff. We're talking the precepts here, as always, although he's not naming them as such, because actually at this point the precepts don't exist. Why? Because the Buddha's Sangha is in this process of practice, of coming to realize, coming to understand. Just as my teacher Barry says, Joko Beck, the founder of Ordinary Mind School, never mentions the precepts, and yet all her teaching is based there in this question of how am I in the world? How am I? How are we with each other? So that when you came into Dokusan interview and told her about your great enlightenment experience, she would say, fine. How's your relationship with your mother at the moment? This is what our practice is. No view. Doesn't mean we don't believe anything. Doesn't mean we don't think anything. To the biggest mistakes we can make, holding the view that Zen is somehow separate from thought, or that thought is somehow this betrayal or missing of the true reality, the mystic woo-woo. No. The truth we evolve in us as our practice, which is at once ours and specific to this life, this body, and universal and part of our society, our world as a whole, world of sentient beings. This is what our practice is. Knowing worth knowing, truth, the truth of what we are and what we're a part of, is process. Not separate. We are not separate from it. That, I think, is the real message of the Kalama Sutta, the real message of the Aggi Vacchagotta Sutta. Other messages are possible,